Didn't J.R.R. Tolkien write the Lord of the Rings so he could make up languages because he was a philologist?
Other way around. He created the Lord of the Rings to house the languages he had invented. Tolkien is probably one of the more famous, more famous linguists. And a philologist, for those who don't know, is the term that's used in Britain for a historical linguist.
Okay, so he was kind of a historical linguist. Do you know any details? Like what sort of, I mean, again, I hear historical linguist, I think language paleontologist.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what languages he was drawing from for his languages?
Yes. So, for example, Quenya was modeled off of Finnish, so Hungarian's cousin. Um, Sindarin was modeled after Welsh, but he created these languages, and he'd been creating languages for decades um, before he even put pen to paper. Um, he also, as a linguist, he was primarily interested in the old Germanic languages, so Old English, which was spoken about 1000 AD or CE, as we tend to say in the academic circle, um, and Old Norse. He was a specialist on Old Norse and Old English.
All right.
And there's actually a funny story too associated with him that often what he would do for the start of his lectures, like the first day of class, because he was also a professor at Oxford, is he would dress up as an Anglo-Saxon and chart and like barge into the room with all of his students and start reciting Beowulf in Old English, just belting it at the top of his lungs.
As Beowulf should be
It is,
recited.
and it is really fun to listen to in Old English. If you ever get a chance, please do.
I'll put that on the bucket list. Listen to Beowulf shouted at me in Old English.
Yeah, there's a few good websites.
Okay. Excellent. And so he would come in shouting at them in Old English, reciting Beowulf.
Yep.
Was that just to assert dominance as professor, or was
It was a way to, well, because most of these classes were on Old English. And so it was a way to get the students to wake up and also to get them prepared to start studying Old English.
now? Let me just ask this on behalf of the people watching at home: how close is modern English to Old English? Would we be able to pick out some words and get the general gist, or not even close?
Not even close, actually. We might be able to pick out a few words. Um, in fact, I have an audio sample here that
Excellent.
actually I'm going to try and recite it. I'm not very good with Old English. I'm better with Middle English, but that's okay. So I'm just going to recite the first two lines of Beowulf, and let's see how much you understand.
Nice.
What we Gardena in Yardagum, Theod Kuninga Thrim Yafronon, Hutha Aetherlengas, and then Fremedon.
Uh-huh. Those were words. I could
Yes.
tell absolutely that those were indeed distinct words, probably with some sort of meaning. Uh, okay.
But that's English for you.
So that's Old English.
Mm-hmm. Spoken roughly around 1000 CE, 1000 AD.
Okay, so we would not have understood that in the slightest.
Nope. We'd have better luck with Middle English, which is about 1400.
Okay, so that'd be like Columbus era.
Yep. So this would be like for those who study English literature, Geoffrey Chaucer, John Wycliffe. That would be that era.
So a little bit after, or let's see, you would have been, what, a couple hundred years still until Shakespeare?
About 200 years.
Yeah. Okay. Which I know still people struggle with Shakespeare. Uh,
Yeah,
but still, 200 years seems like not that long. How fast does language change?
it changes remarkably fast and remarkably slow at
Okay.
the same time. So, as an example, so if we go just 400 years from Beowulf to Geoffrey Chaucer, so this was written about 1420, if I remember right. This is from the general prologue to the Canterbury Tales. Okay. One that appear with the shore salta, the drocht of March hath pierced to the rota, and bathed every vein in sweet liquor, of which virtue engendered is the floor. Juan Zephyris eke with his sweet breath, inspired hath in every holten haith, the tender cropus and the younger sonna hath in the ran, is half corsirona. So it's a little bit
Okay.
more understandable.
I was about to say I actually caught some words there. I caught breath and hearth at very least. Pretty sure
Mm-hmm.
those were the words. Okay, so yeah, I'm picking out a few words there, and so that was just 400 years from Beowulf, where I understood nothing, to Chaucer, where I could at least pick out some. And I imagine if I saw it written, I bet I could pick out even more.
Yes.
Okay, and then 200 years after Chaucer, we get Shakespeare
Mm-hmm.
and ring the alarm bell, blow wind, come rack, at least we'll die with harness on our back.
Yes.
Uh, much more understandable. So, I mean, that seems like a huge jump from Middle English to Shakespeare. Did something happen in those 200 years?
A lot of stuff happened actually. One of the big things that happened were migration to the large cities in England. Because prior to that, most people just stayed in the same town that they lived in and that their grandparents lived in, their great grandparents, and so on and so forth for generations. So there wasn't a lot of mobility and there wasn't a lot of moving. At least this is the hypothesis that people posit, is that it was due to human migration from outlying settlements to big city centers that drove a lot of this change.
Now, was this all of these people from the country uh, absorbing the language in the cities, or was it them influencing, or both? Was it just kind of
Both.
a,
It was
a
kind of both.
mixing?
It was a mixing.
Okay, because I'll admit, yeah, 200 years from Chaucer to Shakespeare, that seems like a very, very big change as far as
Oh
how the
yeah.
language actually sounds. Are other languages changing just as much, just as fast?
Yeah, there are quite a few. It's especially common among languages that are not written down, which is the vast majority of the world's languages. I mean, yeah, I think we're probably in the couple hundreds for languages that are actually written. The vast majority are only oral. And
Hmm.
those, and it's, some people claim that they change a lot faster. Um, and at least that's what's been observed and what's been claimed. And
So if a
that's what
language
I,
isn't written down, it changes a lot faster. I
if,
I believe that in a second.
yeah, if languages are written down, they tend to fossilize and the evolution of those languages are slowed. You can see this with Icelandic, for example. Icelandic is remarkably similar to Old English. And in fact, there's a lot of similarities there. And there's a claim, well, if you read in the old sagas, um, if you read in the old sagas where they say, oh, the people in Iceland and Norway and England all speak the same language because they were so close to one another, they were able to understand each other relatively well.
So what kept Icelandic, or did Icelandic just go down its own path, or did it stay more around Old English? Did they write
It
it down there and theirs kind of fossilized there, or what would happen?
so it fossilized. They were some of the earliest writers in the Germanic group. They started writing um, in the like 1000 when Christianity was introduced to Iceland, and it also helps that they lived on an island um, that was very isolated.
Not
Um,
as much of this mixing pot of all these other people
yep,
coming in. Okay, got it.
yep. And their culture also helped. There's a one of the claims is that one of the reasons why is every year they would all gather together at the Althing and recite the law, and so
Say the
everyone,
all thing.
Mhm. Which is the assembly. All
Okay.
thing just means all the people, and is the oldest and earliest democracy. Um, and Iceland is actually half on the American continent. So there's a claim by the Icelanders that they have the oldest democracy in America. Well,
All
oldest
right.
oldest representational form of government.